just voted unanimously to release a Democratic counter memo, one that seeks to rebut the assertions in the 4 pages that Nunes released on Friday. If you're keeping up with this, we should be able to see the new memo soon. And no matter what it says, that's probably a good thing for everybody. For the first time in generations, Americans have reason to believe that our intelligence and law enforcement agencies gravely misused the powers we have given them, violating the civil liberties of Americans and taking sides in political contests. Well, you can't trust a government that would do something like that, and many Americans don't. That is a disaster in a democracy where the trust of the population is key. And transparency is the only antidote to that. So release all the documents, all relevant documents, and let the rest of us decide what they mean. Maybe that'll make us trust our government again. Nothing else will. Well, Democrats disagree with that. Just last week, party leaders and their lackeys in the media were yelling at the rest of us about how releasing the Nunes memo would constitute a deadly threat to America. They said that for days. And then the memo came out. Whatever you think of the memo's conclusions, you got to be honest and concede there was not a single thing in there that you should not have been allowed to see. There were no classified weapons programs discussed, no names of secret agents revealed. Democrats, it turns out, didn't want it released because it might embarrass them. So on Friday, we spoke to California Congressman Eric Swalwell. He's a member of the House Intelligence Committee, right in the center of this. And we asked him the obvious question. None of this should have been secret in the memo. Why did you fight to keep it hidden? Well, Swalwell didn't answer that question. Instead, he accused us of betraying our country. Here's part of the exchange we had. In the case of today's memo, what specifically have I espoused that empowers threats to our country?
You're peddling the narrative that the Trump administration is putting out, which also is the Putin narrative, because they're retweeting this with their Russian bots. If you're on the same side as WikiLeaks and Putin,
I wonder, do you perceive
if you're on the same side as WikiLeaks and Putin, you should take a step back and wonder, whose bidding are you really doing?
Whose bidding are you really doing? So for wanting to see the memo, we are treasonous agents of Vladimir Putin. You probably grew up reading about the McCarthy era, where demagogues in Congress made baseless claims of foreign collusion, destroying the lives of American citizens in the process. You probably didn't think you'd live to see it happen again, but it has. About a year ago, we spoke to another Democratic member of the House Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff of California, and we asked him another obvious and straightforward question. What evidence do you have that the Russian government hacked John Podesta's email account? Often alleged, never proved. So we pushed. Schiff got squirrely. We pushed him again. Here's what happened. Can you look right into the camera and say, I know for a fact the government of Vladimir Putin was behind the hacks of John Podesta's email?
Absolutely. The government of Vladimir Putin was behind the hacks of our institution and the dumping of information.
Of John Podesta's email?
Not only in the United States, but also in Europe.
Okay, you're not, you know what, you're dodging.
And Tucker,
no, look and say, I know they did. John Podesta's emails, they hacked those.
And I think that Ronald Reagan will be rolling over his grave.
Ronald Reagan,
you're carrying water for the Kremlin.
I'm not carrying water for the you're a sitting member of Congress on the Intel Committee, and you can't say they hacked.
You're gonna have to move your show to RT Russian television.
Carrying water for the Kremlin, disloyalty to America, treason. In a single year on this show, we've been accused of betraying our own country by more than 20% of the Democrats on the House Intelligence Committee. What is this about? Part of it, obviously, is politics of the most cynical kind. The Democratic base has been fed Russian conspiracy theories for months now, and they're primed to believe literally anything on that subject. Within hours of appearing on this show last week, Eric Swalwell was out raising money on our, quote, attack on the rule of law. Our questions were an attack on the rule of law, by the way. Well, that's dishonorable and untrue, but at least it makes a kind of sense in a sleazy Washington way. But what if these guys are actually starting to believe the lies they tell? In a speech last week, Adam Schiff accused Russia of a crime so bizarre that even the most diabolical Soviet-era leaders never would have dared attempt it. Watch this.
They also trumpeted the Second Amendment. Apparently, the Russians are very big fans of our Second Amendment. They don't particularly want a Second Amendment of their own, but they're really glad that we have one. The Russians would be thrilled if we were doing nothing but killing each other every day, and sadly, we are.
So if you're following along at home, how determined are the Russians to destroy American democracy? Well, so determined, says Congressman Schiff, that they will even attempt to promote our own Bill of Rights. Next thing you know, they'll be reprinting the Federalist. Oh, the Slavic mind, dastardly. This is demented, and there's no other word for it. It grows, of course, from our ruling class's unwillingness to face the lessons of last year's election. Voters rejected them. They can't accept that. They blame Russia. We get it. But at what cost, all of this? Schiff and Swalwell are not college professors. They're not CNN anchors. They're members of one of the most powerful and important committees in the Congress, one charged with overseeing our vast intelligence apparatus. They're supposed to be sober and thoughtful and smart, but they're not. Instead, if you dare ask an uncomfortable question, they accuse you of working for a hostile foreign dictator. Strictly speaking, that's a death penalty offense, by the way. This is your opposition party. These are the people who are supposed to be giving us an alternative to Trump, who they claim is too irresponsible to rule. But they're more irresponsible, and they're angrier, and they're more reckless. And most terrifying at all, they are poised to take power. 9 months from right now, at the midterms, they may. Chances are, in fact, they'll be running Congress again. These people, the ones who cavalierly accuse fellow Americans of treason, who mock civil liberties, who believe the U.S. Constitution itself is some kind of Russian ploy, they'll be in charge. Adam Schiff will be chairman of the Intel Committee. If there was ever incentive for the Republicans to get their act together, seriously, and do it fast, you just saw it.